Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here with my co host, Dennis O'Brien, and we have a fabulous guest today. She is the president of the Friends of the Willimantic Library, and it's Nancy Pettit. And we're so glad to have you here. And you're going to be telling us all about wonderful things that you're doing, especially the Children's Book Fair, which is coming along next week. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
I got to say that I don't know if we've ever had the same family on 2 weeks in a row, different people from the same family. But last week her husband was on, John Michael Callahan, who I know as Mike, and he talked about the water department, and for a while, which just gotten a big award, and he's the chairman of the board, and then he talked about, of course, his chairmanship of the Wyndham High School renovated new building committee, which is wrapping up their work along with the construction people.
And now that you've mentioned that, I'll have to say that I was there yesterday with the Wyndham Early Childhood Center, and it's a beautiful, beautiful job. And Chairman Mike Callahan was there as well, and we all recognized Mike and the board for the great work that they did. And then we did a tour of the Wyndham Early Childhood Center, which is a beautiful place, and it fits in a lot with what you're doing, Nancy, as the president of the Friends of the Library, taking care of the little ones for the Children's Book Fair. So tell us about how that all occurred.
Okay, so the Willimantic Public Library and the Friends of the Library are hosting our 4th annual Children's Book Fair. Mm-hmm. So one of the members of the board of the Friends of the Library is a professor of English at UConn, and he was missing the Children's Book Fair that UConn used to hold. So we decided we would try to start it up again. So this year, the Children's Book Fair is on Saturday, October 5th at the Wyndham Senior Center from 10 to 3 p.m. And we have 6 Connecticut children's authors coming. Each of them will read from their book and do a presentation. Actually, we have the first author, who will start at 10:15, is Nora Bernal, and she is being accompanied by her husband, Ruben Rodriguez Ferreira, who illustrates her books for her.
Wow, that's
so they
wonderful.
work together, and she'll be reading from the book, and he'll be doing some illustration during that time.
It'll be very entertaining to see that combination.
We have 3 other authors of picture books. Sarah Levine will be on at 11 o'clock, and she's a veterinarian and a science educator, and she has done a series of books, nonfiction books, about animals, and she has some beautiful new picture books. Her newest one is A Terrible Place for a Nest. And I've been blown away when I wasn't familiar with these books, and as they came in, I was really impressed, and I think people will be too. So one of the things I want people to know is the Children's Book Fair is free for anybody that comes. All Wyndham families will get a free book by one of the authors, a book of their choice. Every child that comes will be able to take at least 2 books home from books that we have that are donated. We have books in English and in Spanish and bilingual books available, from board books all the way up to books for teens. There are going to be children's activities, some craft activities, and let me just talk a little bit more about the other 2 authors. Another author in the morning, 11:45, is Janet Lawler, who is a children's book author that has had many, many books published, some through Scholastic, some through the Book of the Month Club. She has a wide range of books for infants all the way through like grade 3, and we have several of her books.
Well, let me just
available.
stop you there just for a second, because Books for infants. Now, I think some people don't think about reading to infants. Now, I did, but a lot of people don't really think about that, and it's fun. I mean, to get their reactions. And I remember when my youngest grandchild was very small, probably about 6 months. I tried to read to her, and she was like, "I'm going to do it," kind of thing. Maybe she was about 8 months old, but she was all ready to tell me about the story.
Yeah, so it's really important for parents to start reading to their kids from when they're born. You can even read to kids before they're born.
That's right. Our daughter did
It
that.
introduces children to a much broader variety of words and language and intonation than when they just hear conversations between people. And kids absorb all that knowledge about language from hearing it over and over again. When they're little, when they're under 6 months, it doesn't matter what you read. You can be reading a newspaper or whatever to them. But showing them board books, and board books are great for kids under 3 because they don't rip. And it's okay if you own the book, if your infant chews on it, it's not going to be a big deal. And that's one of the ways that kids explore books is by touching it, looking at it, mouthing it. And we encourage parents to give their kids lots of experience with holding that book and looking at the pictures and turning the pages by themselves. And by the time they're 6 months, they're ready to look at the pictures, and they don't need. Some kids will sit with their parents and read, and some kids will walk around and come back and look at the pictures once in a while. And the important thing is that they're hearing the language and they're having the opportunity to experience that they see people with books. So their information about books will grow.
Right.
And
then it also it fits in with the plasticity of the brain and how the things that you do with a child really has an influence on how the neurons connect with each other and communicate. So it really has a lot to do with brain development, and that neuroplasticity really can go to work with that interaction.
And language develops the fastest in the first 3 years.
Yep.
So having access to books and the language of books during that first 3 years is really critical. I wanted to take a side note here and talk about, because the library knows that children having access to books and hearing books read before they start school is really important. The Willimantic Public Library initiated a 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, which is a program where people can sign up and their kids can get some small prizes for every 100 books they read. But it's encouraging parents to pay attention to how many books they're reading to kids. If you read one book a night, that's 365 books. So getting to 1,000 books before kindergarten is not hard to do as long as you think about it. So this is to encourage people to think about it, to start from when kids are infants. And when you sign up for the program, you get a free book and the other things. And I am in the process of raising money so that we're trying to get grants so that we can give every family that signed up for 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten a book every month, a free book every month to add to their home library.
That's a wonderful thing to do.
The
Excellent.
first grant I got was from the Teachers Union, Wyndham Teachers Union. They gave us $2,500, and we've already bought some books. We're buying board books for all those kids under 3. So please, at the Children's Book Fair, you'll be able to sign up for 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. Go to the library table, and you'll be able to get a library card for your child and sign up for 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten.
So let me just ask you, if people listening to the show want to make a donation, how will they do that?
Okay, so the Willimantic Public Library has a website, and that website is willimanticlibrary.org. On that website, there's a menu about us. And if you go on there, you can find the Friends page. On the Friends page, there is a membership form, that you can join the Friends and make a donation, or there's just a button you can make a donation. You can send a donation in at any time to the Friends of the Library, and it will be you can note that you want it for 1,000 books before kindergarten. And later on, I'm going to talk about a couple other initiatives that we have going.
Okay. Very good.
And the other thing I wanted to say is on the Willimantic Library's website, on their homepage, if you go to the bottom of the page, there's a place where you can sign up for their newsletter. And they will email you their newsletter either in English or in Spanish at the beginning of every month that lists all the programs that they have. The library has programs daily, Monday through Saturday, and it will list everyone and describe the programs and tell you how you can sign up for them or if you can just show up.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. And so that's going to be on the website as well?
That is at the bottom of the homepage
Okay.
of the library's website.
Excellent. So you can see a lot of this. If you're driving, you can find all this information also on the library website.
It also tells you how to sign up for a library card.
Excellent.
Well, this is very interesting to me because I was lucky enough to be brought up in a family where my parents they were Depression era people, and they were not highly educated. They were not college graduates, okay? They didn't go to college. They went, in fact, they didn't go to high school, and they dropped out, and they went to work. And but they were well aware of the fact that they needed to read to our children, my sister and I. My sister's 3 years younger, but I can still remember my dad I'd get into bed with him, and he'd put his arm around me, and he would read to me when I was just a little tyke, before my sister was born. He'd read from the comics, from the New York papers, and the funny papers they called them, and or anything that he could get. And I remember getting all these kiddie books too that they weren't as sophisticated as they are today, but I can remember a lot of them, and I can remember them buying me phonograph records that there were 78 records that kind of would break if you dropped them, of that would help work on my ability to communicate. And I also was lucky that my father's youngest sister was 16 years younger. She was still living at home with my grandparents and attending what is now Central Connecticut State University. It was then called Teachers College of Connecticut. And she would take me aside and read to me when I was over at Grandpa's and Grandma's every Sunday. And I was able to read when I was 4 years old, because they put so much time into me, and as a result of that, when I went to school, I was way ahead of everybody else. In fact, I probably annoyed the hell out of everybody because I was always raising my hand. But that's what my family did to help me, and I can't say enough about these initiatives that you're talking about now, which are far more sophisticated but necessary. And I hope that parents out there or people who know parents of young children will pass this on to them. It's a great opportunity because, as you said, up to age 3 is when you really can learn so much. I mean, that's really the time to learn a second language.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
The
language
best time.
learning. It's the best time to learn a
Optimum
second
time, if you can do it.
Yeah, we really encourage people that speak a second language in the home to speak both languages right from
Right.
birth, because kids will grow up bilingual and
Now, you were a teacher.
yes.
Yeah, and you
yes.
taught, what grades did you
I
teach?
preschool special.
Oh,
I
you
did,
taught, okay.
I did birth to 3 home visiting.
Okay, so
Always
this is right
took
up,
books with me.
this is right up your alley.
Told the parents how important it was. Showed
Yeah.
them how to use books with infants and toddlers. And then I
Yeah.
had a preschool special ed classroom, an
Yeah.
integrated classroom for 20 years. So I have about 45 years of experience working with preschoolers and literacy. So that's where my heart is, getting books into the home.
Wow.
The Children's Book Fair is one way we'll do that. And I just wanted, before I forget, I am going to mention the other authors while we're here, but if you go to the Friends page on the library website, or if you go to the library calendar of events and you click on the Children's Book Fair, it will take you to the Children's Book Fair page, which gives you the dates and the times. And if you click on each author's name, it will take you to a page that shows the author, their bio, some of the books that they've written, and you can see who you'd like to do. The schedule isn't up yet, but it should be up sometime this weekend. So you'll also be able to check on the schedule for that day. The other thing that I wanted to say in terms of books available is we have 8 little libraries around town we have steward for each little library, and we keep the book stocked with books for all ages. So there are books available at the 4 elementary schools in those little libraries outside, at Wyndham Heights, at the daycare center on Valley Street, at the garden on the bridge. And there are also other little libraries that are private, but we have 3 more that hopefully we're going to get painted at the Children's Book Fair and get out there.
It's quite a festive day you have planned for the 5th of October. And you're also having a puppet show, I understand.
We are. So TJ Jacobs is a professional puppeteer, and he is the puppet theater director at Stepping Stones Museum for Children in Norwalk, Connecticut. He is bringing a puppet theater with him and puppets, and I don't know what puppet show he's doing, but at the end he's going to do a puppet workshop for families where they can make their own puppets to take home.
They're so much fun. I remember when I was growing up, we had puppets, and we'd put on little shows for ourselves.
So that puppet show is going to happen at 1:15.
Uh-huh. That is wonderful. That's fabulous. And so, in addition to this wonderful presentation of books by the writers of the books and the puppet presentation, you also are doing a number of other things for the town and for the region with respect to being a friend of the library, the Friends of the Library. Actually, I'm sorry, they're doing a number of things. Yes.
Yes. So another thing is you'll see me at the farmers market.
Aha.
The third. There's only one more that I'll be at this year, which is October 19th. But I set up books of tables for people to take for free, both adults and children, and we give away books all summer there.
That's a great idea.
So another initiative that the Friends had, we also have an ongoing book sale at the library. So as you enter the library on the left-hand side, there are shelves there, which is an ongoing book sale. And actually in the lobby, there's now a puzzle exchange. So you can take puzzles that you've finished and pick up some new puzzles, and it's a way to have those puzzles recycled within the community and for people to be able to get puzzles without paying for them. But another big initiative right now is computers for the community.
Oh, that's huge.
So we are taking, Bob Hasenfratz, who's on our board, started this. So we're taking computers that were built in the last 10 years that people are no longer using, and wiping them clean and putting on Linux free software, and they're loaded with every kind of software you can imagine, everything that's in you would get from Microsoft Office. It has video editing, it has sound editing, it has a whole lot of different software, some of which I've never used, but the first one went out to a graduate student at UConn who was actually a PhD student who was teaching courses online and didn't have a computer at home. He's a refugee from, I think, Venezuela. But we have several computers ready to go. There is, if you're involved with WAME, they're collecting names for us. We've asked the resource center people at the schools to let us know, families. So if you need a computer for work or for school, high school, middle school, college, if your family needs a computer for other reasons, just let us know, and we'll meet up with you and show you how to use the computer. There's going to be a form that will be at the library next week. It may be there now, but I'm not sure. But it's going to be in the computer cubicles at the library. It'll be available at the desk. It'll also end up being available online. So if you do need a computer, or if you have computers that you want to donate so that they don't get thrown away.
You realize
way
that
to
now
do
that
it.
you've announced this on Let's Talk About It, you will be inundated with requests for computers. I'm thinking about asking myself.
I'm hoping.
You can
I'm
clean
hoping
mine up
so,
for me.
But no, we won't clean it up for you.
Wipe it clean.
We'll wipe it clean.
Wipe it clean.
So if you have computers to donate, you can drop them off at the library, or you can email the friends and arrange to pick it up. So that's a program that's now started. I think there's 5 or 6 computers ready to go out to the
Wonderful.
community right now.
What is the size of the like the megabytes or the terabytes? What are you looking at the memory capacity of the computer?
So what's happening is, if we are spending a little money, to add memory, to add to put new batteries if we need them, to some of them need mice to go with them. I don't know what the minimum memory that Bob is on them, but the Linux software takes up much less memory, the operating
interesting.
system,
Yep.
than the other operating systems. So that's one of the benefits. The older computers can work okay because it takes less memory to run that operating system.
I mean, that's one of the things that when I look to buy a new computer, I look to see what is the max, try and get the maximum amount of memory, because as time goes on, when you own a computer, the software updates take up more and more and more room. So I've never heard of Linux.
It's an open, what do you call it? Open software. It's free. It's developed by volunteers working on it on the web. And it's been around for a long time, but they keep updating and doing new versions, and then people create software to run on a Linux operating system that mimics the other software that's out there. So it's all open source. It's all free. So if people want to download software that's not on the computer, they can do that. So as long as they have access to the internet,
Right. Yep.
they can download other software, and it's all free.
But we've
Yeah,
got
I just wanted to make sure that everybody out there knows, because sometimes people, believe it or not, tune in late to the show, or they, and we want to make sure that they know that the main reason that you're on here is to talk about you. You're giving us all kinds of great information about the library, but the thing we want to really stick in people's heads is the fact that you're having the Eastern Connecticut Children's Book Fair coming to Windham.
A week from tomorrow, so it's October 5th, at the Windham Senior Center from 10 to 3, and there are 6 authors and an illustrator there. The authors will be doing readings and presentations from their books. They will be doing book signings, so if you get one of the authors' books... Oh, the other thing that I forgot to say is we are providing one free book to each Windham family, and actually each Hebron family, because Hebron Friends of the Library gave us a donation for the book fair. And then we have, for every child that comes, we have free books for them to take home. But Barnes & Nobles from Yukon will also be there selling books. They will be selling books by all the authors, so some of the books that we don't have, they will be providing, as well as other really well-known books that are favorites of kids. So Barnes & Nobles will be there.
Wonderful. Well, that's a great addition as well. And connecting with the bookstore at Yukon is a great thing, and having that support from them is excellent.
And the manager of the Barnes & Noble bookstore used to work for Yukon Bookstore and used to be part of the group that did the children's book fair at Yukon. So he was
very good.
interested in working with us on this. So last year was the first year that Barnes and Nobles came, and
Great.
they're more than happy to do it again.
So Nancy, this is the fourth time that it's been done by the Friends of the Willimantic Library?
The Friends of the Willimantic Library and the Willimantic Public Library
And the
hosted
library.
together.
Okay, so that's really terrific. You know, we have a history in this town of a few authors anyway that have written children's books. For one, there was Elizabeth Dyack and Bruce Clements.
And
Bruce-
Barbara McClintock.
Barbara McClintock, of course, is
Yes, and
she's an
she's
illustrator of many books, but a lot of children's books.
and she's been it too. She was
Oh,
there
yeah.
last year. She was there at our first. We'll
Right.
have her every other. We'll have her every other
Oh, she
year.
may happen by, who knows? I mean,
She's
she's great.
She actually enjoys being there.
Oh, sure
Right,
she
yeah,
does.
but Bruce Clemens, who used to teach at Eastern and whose wife Hannah was formerly the first selectman, was an author of children's books, and also somebody we knew, Elizabeth Dyack,
Yeah.
wrote children's
yes.
books.
We have several children's book authors in town. Delia
Yes.
Berlin.
Oh, Delia
Yeah,
Berlin, that's right.
That's right.
right.
Delia Berlin is, yes.
Yeah, I don't want to leave. Yeah,
and,
there's a lot of local.
There's a
people.
couple other people that we've met recently that
Yeah,
that are in the immediate area that are children's book authors.
and one of the things the article in the newspaper pointed out about this this fair that's coming up on Saturday, October 5th, 10 a.m. at the Senior Center, is the fact that what was I going to say now? I lost my thought. I had
No
something.
worries. You had more people that you were trying to remember who
No,
read
I
books.
was trying to remember more people, but I also
I did want to mention that
it'll come to me.
some of the authors' books are printed in Spanish as well as English, and
Oh,
there
that's
are
excellent.
a couple books that are bilingual. So for families that who their home language are Spanish or their kids are learning Spanish through the Compañeros program, we will have, and we have purchased several hundred new books in Spanish and that are all in Spanish or bilingual to give away at the
I remember
Children's
now what
book
I was
fair.
going to say.
Very
That
good.
there are various levels. Some people specialize in early childhood books. Some people specialize in books for older kids. You know, second, third, fourth grades, whatever. So there's lots of people, lots of great authors writing children's books today, and lots of great illustrators like our own Barbara McClintock illustrating them fabulously. And the other thing I wanted to say that came up early in the discussion that I didn't get a chance to talk about was how you talked about how some of these very young kids are picking up on the storylines. And I think a lot of them are picking up on the storylines partially from looking at the illustrations and figuring it out from the wonderful illustrations that are in these children's books.
and picture books are what is written for children up to age 7 because
Right.
they get so much information and from the illustrations before they have the ability to read independently on their own.
I can still remember the first books I used to read in first grade, and that was, with Dick and Jane, Fun with Dick and Jane, and see Spot run, Spot and Puff, the two animals in the family. But Dick and Jane, everybody in my generation read those books, and they were well illustrated, and everybody knew who Spot was and what he looked like and what he did, and Puff. It was fantastic, and it made reading as a child, even as a child of a first grade age, much more interesting. So the illustration part is vital.
Yeah, and a couple of the authors are authors and illustrate their own book, and some of them
Yep.
work with other illustrators. The fourth picture book author we have is Adriana Hernandez Bergstrom, and she was born in Cuba. She's a Cuban American, and she's an author illustrator. So you will be able to see some author illustrators. We also have an author, S.J. Taylor, that wrote a book for middle grades. And she also has a fantasy book for middle grades, and she was here a couple years ago with a fantasy book for young adults, and both of those books will be available. And also, Michael Bellinger will be here. He has written a new fantasy book that's just come out in September, and he also has a young adult book that was published a few years ago. So those are authors we're going to have. We also are going to have, I believe, we're still making sure this is happening, but the Dodd Human Impact at the Dodd Center in Yukon sponsors the Mulcapen Book Award for children's books that help people understand human rights, children's rights, and some of the issues around that. And they have done they've come with books that are Mulcapen Book Award winners and honor books, and done a display every year, and they usually bring literacy activities with them. And I'm pretty sure they're coming, although they're still working on who's going to represent them.
You know, that's great, and that is wonderful. How did they become involved with the Dodd Center and the human rights activities?
I'm trying to think how we...
just curious.
Proximity, they're right up the road.
I think that, so the Mulcapen is the...
Because I've never heard of it, so I
well,
just kind of wondered about
Mulcapen is the pen name for a woman, and now I'm blanking on her name, but she was a professor at UConn, and she gave them money for Dodd Impact to fund the awards, and they'll have an award ceremony in November. Michelle Palmer is her name, and she's a professor emeritus from UConn, and so I actually don't remember how, but the Willimantic Public Library has benefited from this relationship. Because all the people that send in their books to be considered by the award have to send multiple copies for the people that are reading it, and they then give them to the libraries around here. And the Willimantic Public Library has gotten carts full of these beautiful books to put on the shelves.
So I did want to. So one of the reasons I asked that is because one of our very good friends, Jeannie Zulik, I went to law school with her, and she has written a few children's books now for adolescents. And we mentioned adolescents, you sparked that in my mind, and so I just wanted to mention her. We've had her on the show with the first 2 books I think she wrote, but then she's gotten awards for the books she's written, mostly for not real small children, but adolescents, that age group, and about some of them how they struggled with immigration issues and that sort of thing. And because she's a lawyer, some of the analysis that is in the book that gets transferred for the students who are in the middle school time frame, goes into some in a way that's really understandable, how the court systems work and the impact of our rules and so on and so forth on families that are migrating here. So it's quite interesting, and that's why I asked you that question.
Well, as somebody, another insight I have on all this, and I think is wonderful, is that I grew up reading things from something I could hold in my hand, not something that I looked at on a screen. And I get dismayed sometimes when I see kids spending so much time looking at a computer screen, and where they can switch off to something that's really not educational. Not in an important way, I don't think. That's a value judgment, but that's the way it is. So I also hear, it's kind of sad that newspapers are fading, and they're probably not going to be in place 20 years from now or maybe sooner, and that's scary because a lot of people don't want to read. Younger people do not want to read something that they hold in their hand, and I think the fact that you have these incredibly attractive books, a multiplicity of them now. For kids to be able to hold, and or somebody reading to them to hold, may hopefully at least turn the tide a little bit in that regard, because I don't think we should be relying totally on, electronics.
Well, that's one of our goals, is to get
Yeah.
books in the hands of families and to build up their home libraries so
Right.
that kids aren't only seeing books online. And a lot of families don't have access to the internet, so they don't even have access to ebooks.
Absolutely.
For adults, I think ebooks are wonderful,
Yeah.
and it gets people access to a
Depen-
really big library from their home. And
Right.
the Willimantic Public Library has several different ways that you can get ebooks. So
Yep.
please check that out, because you have access to hundreds of thousands of electronic books.
Yeah.
But also you have access to newspapers online. The library has a subscription to a news thing, the Willimantic Chronicle,
Yep.
and many other newspapers are available
That's
for
that's-
free online.
I'm glad you're saying that. That's really important, because I think one thing I continue to do, as I did when I was a child, is read the newspaper. And we had a local newspaper where I grew up in New Britain, the Herald, and we have the Chronicle here. And I don't think they're as thorough, as complete as they used to be. They don't have the funding. They don't have the capital, the money. But it's a good way to find out what's going on in town, and I think it's important, and I think it helps bring us all together, which is there's always room for that.
Absolutely. Sense of community is really
See,
important.
another thing I
What
want to
you're
say
doing.
is, I'm so used to reading something and I'm holding in my hand and not just looking at a screen, is that oftentimes when I want to read something off a computer screen, I will print. I have a printer. I will print it out and read it from a printout. Maybe that's partly the way my eyes work too. My eyes are used to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I do too for long documents.
Long
I
documents.
want to see it. I want to see it in
But
hard copy.
I think it is important for people to know that the Willimantic Public Library, and basically all public libraries now, have as many books available electronically. Well, probably more books available electronically
would
as
think
they
so.
do on the shelves. But also that through the Willimantic Public Library, you can find books at other libraries and have them
Yeah,
come.
because they're all connected.
And they come pretty quickly, usually within a week, unless they're really popular.
Yeah, we've been working on that at the
book.
Capitol.
So the Willimantic Public Library has made sure that they've beefed up what's available digitally, and they have educational resources, they have news resources, they have business resources, they have
Music.
courses, they have
Yep.
they have music, they have lots of resources. So please check it out.
When I used to travel all over the state, when I was in legal aid, I used to stop in every library in every city where we had an office, and we had offices in all the major cities in Connecticut. And I would go and I would take out compact discs, and the next time I went back, I would bring it back, and that's what I was doing. This is years ago, but I would be so excited to go in to each library and see what it was like, to compare it to, like I grew up using the New Britain Public Library, which is quite nice. And libraries are wonderful institutions.
That's great. Well, this is wonderful. So why don't we just cover again?
Okay, one more thing that I
please,
I
yes.
forget to shout out.
Oh, please.
The Willimantic Public Library is short one person for the board of directors. So if you have an interest in supporting the library and helping develop policy and helping the library to continue moving forward, please contact the library and let them know you're interested in being on the board of directors.
Who's the chairman?
Barbara.
Barbara Wright?
Barbara Wright
Barbara
is
Wright.
the chairman.
She's been on there for
If you
quite a while.
contact Barbara Wright,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you can also contact Dan Paquette, the librarian, and let him know, and he'll get you in touch
Well,
with
you
Barbara
can't
Wright.
imagine how often I've tried to lure people from the library board, because they tend to attract a very capable group of citizens
We have
onto the town council.
one more minute, and we have, and just
Okay.
We just want to remind people that the Children's Book Fair is at the Wyndham Senior Center from 10 to 3 on Saturday, And
The 5th of October, not
the
tomorrow.
October 5th, right?
We're a week ahead. We're a week ahead of time. We're warning you well in advance. And let's talk about it next week. We're going to remind you. It's one thing we do. We're going to remind people about Saturday, October 5th. The Eastern Connecticut Children's Book Fair is coming to town. It's going to be at the Willimantic Senior Center or the Wyndham Senior Center on Gilson Square, and it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with all kinds of goodies for everybody.
Thank you so much, Nancy Pettit, President of Friends of the Willimantic Library, for being with us today. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.